What up, Justin?
What's up, Jacob? How are you?
Dude, man, I'm doing great. I'm glad we finally got to sit down and do this today. It's been, I feel like 3 months we've talked back and forth about trying to coordinate this and get the right night to do this.
Yes, we've definitely been playing Instagram tag with each other, trying to set up a date.
Yeah,
But I'm
yeah,
glad we finally made it work.
yeah. It happens. But yeah, I'm glad to finally have you here.
Thank you.
It's funny that of how I found you and how we started communicating. When I found you, I had stumbled upon your TikTok account for some festival videos that you had put out. And I think at the time you had maybe 2,000 followers, maybe only 1,000. And then like we were just talking before we got on to actually record this. I checked today and you're at 17K. I'm like, what the hell? What the hell's going on? This man
It,
blowed up.
it's been crazy. Yeah, it's funny because you literally did find me at the very start of my account, and now it's been like
It's a 3 month period, basically. I
yeah,
mean,
it's
that's
been
when
a
I first
lot of
reached
time
out.
for growth, and it's been nuts. Which is TikTok is so much fun. It really is. It's like the craziest social media platform that I've come across by far. I think compared to any of the other like traditional ones.
Yeah, the growth on it is seems outrageous. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, there's like almost no strategy to it, and I don't mean that literally. Like, of course, you can have strategy for your content. A lot of people do. Even I do in some way, but there's no predicting what will do well and what won't. You know what I mean in terms of like
mhm,
viewership and hitting the for you page and all that stuff. Like,
yeah,
I mean, I've come across videos, on my like feed where it's just let's say like I saw one the other day. It was like some old guy who like clearly didn't know how to work TikTok and accidentally recorded themselves to a sound. They were literally just sitting at the table like deadpan, and it had like 5 million play, like no hashtags. Guy had no followers. Like I was just like, how
I know.
does the algorithm pick up on this stuff? Like I don't even understand.
Yeah, it was so weird to me with the algorithm is like if you're scrolling through it, which occasionally I get caught in those like hour-long scroll throughs. It does. I think it happens
Right?
to everybody. Even though I don't want to admit it, it does happen. But
Yes.
sometimes I scroll through and I do get some with no hashtags, nothing, and I'm like, and then it kind of does pertain to stuff I watch, but I'm also like, how does this show up on my like some of them all have some unique hashtag that seems like that something I've been watching previously, but like the ones that have none, I'm like, how does this just pop up and I like it? Like, how does this? Do they know me that well? Like, what's going on?
There is. I mean, listen.
Yeah,
I don't have
yeah.
disclaimer. I have no inside knowledge of the algorithm that versus anyone else. But I've seen some of the like data behind what actually drives the algorithm, like on a like math level, if you will, and it's a very complex kind of like a formula is not even the right word because it's way more advanced than like just a formula. But yeah, somehow there's like a system where basically you have one piece of content on this side and the other piece of content on here, and TikTok kind of lays out how to get from there to there in terms of like who likes what. So everything is kind of interconnected in that way. Everything's purpose driven what you see on your feed, but it's still very random. I feel like a lot of times.
It is, but it's oddly like it's random, but it somehow makes sense.
Yes,
Like
it's
it's
in the sphere
organized,
at some
yeah,
point.
organized chaos, kind of type of
Yeah,
thing. You're like,
very, very
yeah,
much so. That's a
like how
great
does?
term for it.
But you so go ahead, go ahead. What were you saying?
No, I was gonna say I think all of TikTok is organized chaos.
Yeah.
Everything, not just posting. It's just the whole platform itself is just chaos.
Oh yeah, I also think it's funny how there's all these different like types of like they always are like, oh, you're in this TikTok now, you're in this. I've seen
Yes.
like you're now in sports betting TikTok, you're in
Right.
financial TikTok, and I'm like,
Oh my
oh, I'm on
god. I
that side
know.
now. Like, how did I get to this new side? I had one that pop up the other day that was like, you're on stoner side of TikTok, and I was like, how did I get here? I'm watching Star Wars and finance videos, and now I'm here. How did I get
I
here?
know.
It's like,
It just brings up some. That's what I mean. It's just all over the place, and it's just been like going back to. Let me say this. I've had my TikTok account since 2018. Believe it or not. Now, you obviously the oldest post you'll find on there is from the summer, I think. But I've had my account for that long, and so I downloaded it when in 2018 as a joke. Made a few joke videos for like me and my three friends that followed me at the time, right?
right.
And then forgot about it. And then quarantine hits, and all of a sudden everyone's on TikTok because no one else has anything better to do.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden I was like, wait, I have a TikTok account. Hold on a second, I need to re-download this. and I do, and that's when I got sucked into the hole like everyone else. But I had realized I was like, man, I've had this app, like I've had an account for 2 years and I never used it until now. And then once I started posting, I looked back on all the like time that I could have been putting content on there, or like even just recording it for TikTok style, like on my phone vertical.
Right, right.
And I'm just like, man, I could have capitalized, on that. But I mean, who knew? Like, I don't think if COVID had came around, if I had ever would have re-downloaded the app, because it completely fell off my radar until that time. So I was, it's interesting to see looking backwards and being like, oh, like, what would I have done differently if I had known about this? But
You could say that about a ton of things. I mean, it's
oh,
crazy.
sure,
I mean, yeah, I mean, you could say it about anything for real. But I mean, like when you actually do look back on things, even if it is something as small as TikTok, you're like, dang, that's crazy that that occurred and I missed it, or you did it and you're like, dang, it brought me here to this point. I mean, that's what I look at when I look back on things. I'm like this is crazy because I'm now at this point, and like where would I
yes,
be? Like, and then my mind wanders of like, where will I be if that didn't happen? You never
right.
know, and it's like, oh, it could have been bad. I could have gotten famous early and then like died on a plane. Like, who knows? Like, it's just
Oh,
kind of,
yeah, it's
it's
true.
crazy. Like, but you're alive at this moment, so you're like, all right, I can't be too mad. Like, there's a reason why I'm here still. So
Oh yeah, yeah. Everything, of course, everything's for a reason. Yeah, I don't like kick myself over it. It's
no,
just funny.
I didn't think you did. Sorry, I wasn't implying that, but
No, no, no. It's like, it just makes me laugh because it's just like so, like now not having, like not doing all the things I was doing at the time. I wouldn't say I took it for granted, but when your life is a certain way and you have like a certain lifestyle, you don't like think too much of it until you start,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
like not having it and being like, oh, if I was back there, I would do X and Y or whatever. Which
Yeah.
is like in the case of TikTok, it's so simple. It's just like, oh, I would have taken vertical video on my phone that I could have edited later. But being a videographer, I'm so like obsessed with capturing, regular footage on my camera, which
Mhm.
is horizontal, that I'm like, oh, like I never even thought to do that with my phone, and now that's all that TikTok is vertical video. So it's a literal opposite of what I was doing. So it's kind of like a different like uh, different frame of mind that you have to take on.
Yeah, it's also crazy to me that nowadays you can get, super famous by just using your phone and editing a video on your phone. I mean,
Yes.
I for my work, I actually have edited videos on my phone. Like, it's crazy. And I've had people be like, "You edited this?" And I was like, "Yeah." How did you do this? You were with me all day, like at work. And I was like, "Oh, I just did it on my phone." Because they're like, "Oh, I thought you were gonna take it home and do it." And I was like, "I just did it real quick on my phone." And it wasn't,
Yeah.
not nothing crazy good. Obviously, the computers are always way better than the phone, but enough to get by where they're like, that's perfect. We'll send that like right now just so the managers get an idea of what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so it's just, it baffles me that what we can do with just this little phone now.
That's the
And
thing. It's like a total rethink of like if you look at it from kind of like a top down point of view, TikTok, or I guess you could even say mobile media, like now in the current time period, has taken like this huge shift where I think before there was a huge amount of like focus on production value and like wow factor, right? But now
yeah,
everything is about virality, and it's about like, you know, the attention span for videos is getting shorter. So everyone's goal is to fit as much content as you possibly can in the shortest amount of time and still have the same impact. So it's making, I feel like people like me and a lot of other creators who deal with video have to kind of completely rethink their strategy. You have to like, well, I'm so used to making minute-long recaps for Instagram, and now it's like, well, how can I get the best video that can fit into 10 seconds?
yeah,
It's going to
hmm
keep people's attention and not force them to scroll away. So it's this whole like shift perspective, uh, like of where I was before with the content I was making and where everything's headed, in the future and from now forward. So it's wild because it all happens so fast too. Like just like I said, over quarantine, TikTok's popularity exploded, and now their user base is the biggest it's ever been, and you have even Yahoo Finance, which I work for, being like, "Hey, we should make a TikTok soon," that kind of thing.
that's
And Yahoo
crazy.
News has a TikTok, and they're almost at 1 million followers now. So it's just like you have these traditional media companies getting involved in it too, and everyone's just hopping on board.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny to see the traditional media companies like start to hop on board because it's funny that like they're just so late to it. Like in
Yes.
my opinion, like they're so late to it, and some of them are still holding out, and some of them still won't commit to it. Like there's some that are just now getting on, and I would say they're like the early ones of Fortune 500 companies and
Uh,
media companies to get on, which is so weird to say that they're the early ones when like we've all been on it for years.
right,
And then you've
right.
got others that I know that just will like are holding out for like the last. I don't know what they're holding out for. Like they just don't want to do it or they don't understand it. I can talk for the company I work for, and I can say that they're way behind on their use of social media, and that's something I've mentioned every time I go up to corporate or anything. I'm like,
Mhm.
I would like to change that. Like that would be one of my goals if I were to stay with the company would be to change that. I mean, they're not using any of it, and I remember talking with one of the higher ups in a sense, and he was like, "Well, we're very worried about like what people might write about us and what people might say about us and yada yada." And I was like, "That's such a you're not being mean. It's such an older person's perspective of being
Yeah.
like, we're gonna play defense with this. We're very worried that it could inflict damage on the company when it's like." No, no, I don't think you understand. Like what you said, like video attention span is so little right now, and attention span in general is so little that like one bad thing is gonna just be drowned out by the next 1,000 comments.
Yes.
It's like you just
Yes.
gotta keep as long as you just keep that perpetual wheel of like putting stuff out, like that one bad comment is never really gonna be seen, or it's not even gonna be paid attention to if it's there. Um,
Yeah, I think. I mean, on that to that point specifically, like I was just talking about this actually with people at Yahoo. Like now, everyone on TikTok specifically, when they see brands, right, they want to see them interacting with everyone else, and they want to see them like dive into the jokes and be self-aware because
yeah,
that's what it is
yeah.
now for brands in 2021. Like gone are the days where you have this like uptight kind of like, oh, like we're X company and like we have to behave like this. Like
Yeah.
that's all gone, and it has been on Twitter for the longest time. I mean, how many jokes and screenshots there are of like all the brands like interacting with each other, like Xbox, Sony, or like the fast food giants like Wendy's,
Oh,
Taco
that one's
Bell,
always funny. The fast
McDonald's.
food
Yeah,
giants.
like they all have fun with each other, and that's like I like they've been on that for a while, but every brand needs to hop on to that kind of like mentality. Like you got to be tuned in, because if you're not tuned in, you're getting tuned out. Very simple. Like no one's going to pay attention, right? No one wants to like consume stuff that isn't like up to speed, or up to
Yeah.
date. And that goes back to the attention span thing and audience age. I mean, TikTok is obviously has some of the youngest like user base by percentage out of any platform. I mean, it's geared for a younger audience. And so even with brands that, are trying to appeal to the masses, your 18 to 22-year-old is not going to want to sit through a standard like video that a corporation would have put out 3 4 years ago. They want to see like, oh, X brand just used this trending sound, like this is hysterical, like let's go watch it. Or they made some comment on a video like,
Yeah.
something not even outlandish but just out of character for a traditional company.
I
And
agree. A
what does
whole
that do? That drives attention right back, and people know, oh, I'm gonna go on their page and I'm gonna go look, or whatever. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I think it's a good example of that is literally just today, not even long before we hopped on. There was like a video of like someone was like, oh, this is what plane turbulence looks like outside or from the outside of the plane. And it was like a CGI video of like a plane like flapping its wings like a bird. And the top comment was United Airlines saying, "Oh, it's true. Like that's what it looks like." And
Like
everyone
that's how
was
our
like, "Oh
planes
my
fly.
God, United!" Like commented, or it's like they're like, "Oh my God, turbulence." So everyone's going crazy, and all the other top comments were literally just saying, "Oh, an airline commented. How funny is that?"
hmm
So it's stuff like that that is like keeping, and or rather, every company should be striving to do stuff like that so they stay on the cutting edge, and not fall behind everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree. Like I said, I think a majority of the companies, and especially the big companies, are like just not on it. And it's funny to me because it's like social media. Essentially, it's very much all free, and they're still spending billions, millions upon billions of dollars on advertising, and it's like you could just use the internet. I mean, you got you got Yahoo, you got Google. You can do ads on for cheaper, and you've also got just Facebook. Just put a post out. I mean, guarantee a
Yeah,
lot of a couple 100,000 people are going to see it, and if it's good enough, probably more because they're going to send it to people. Oh my god, like you're saying, oh my god, this is hysterical. Yada yada, tagging this person, tag that person.
right.
But it's just I don't know what it is that they just haven't done it yet. I don't know if their whole it just doesn't make sense to me, but times are changing, and they're going to change with times eventually because
Exactly.
that attention is slowly, if not, I think everyone that's young, it's already shifting. But I think maybe the older generation, maybe 40 and above, maybe it's not shifted yet, and that's why
Right.
that old way of advertising and such is still kind of solid in place.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Considering
that's
they have the
true.
more money than we do, probably, but you
Well,
know,
yeah, but that see, like that may be the case, right? They may have all the money to do
to,
certain things like that, but like
yeah, yeah,
at its core, you still have to engage with every age group. You still got to real. I mean, and obviously it's different for different businesses. If like Yahoo Finance, pretty sure I don't know this like 100%, but I don't think their target demographic is like the young people of TikTok.
correct, right, yeah,
But still, it
could
doesn't
be.
matter. There still may be some people at that age group that do want to learn about finance or investing or whatever, and then they got to make it accessible
And
to that age group.
they could have an initiative to target younger generational
Sure,
people by doing TikToks and doing stuff with popular songs and whatnot that are
yep,
available. But yeah,
hundred
I mean, it
percent.
would be interesting. What's so interesting to me is what will be going on with our generation coming up is how our generation goes into these companies and slowly starts changing it, and then the out like the minds of the people that take over the social medias for certain companies. For instance, like just again, we talked about like they all have different products, like the airlines, like how these people are running their social medias and making stuff funny toward airlines or attracting people toward the airlines. Like it's going to be interesting for me to watch how people do that job because all these different companies have so many different things. I mean, imagine being like I don't know what's a weird thing like a styrofoam cup company. Like how could you like how do you social media market that? But
Right.
they'll find a way. I mean, something like a bunch of guys making swords out of their styrofoam cups and then hitting each other to some funny like who
Sure.
knows, whatever it is. But
Anything. Yeah.
it is possible with anything. It's just the creative minds to me though will be so interesting to see how like what comes out because I think it'll go that way eventually.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. It definitely will. It's just interesting because I mean I'm not an advertiser by trade at all, or again, or even digital marketing. I mean I just do video, but you kind of get subjected to seeing it,
Mm-hmm.
by way of your own craft. Like for every video I upload, like I see what does well or see what doesn't do well, and then I'm looking on the For You page and same thing, seeing what's performing and what's underperforming, and so I feel like everyone just can focus in on that, right, and start picking up trends and just paying attention. And to that point, I almost feel like you could have a generation of social media employees, like people who are running social media accounts. They may not even have a traditional background in social media or marketing, right? They're just tuned in the right way, and they know how to make things work, and that's it. You know what I mean? They don't have to have the traditional like marketing background education. Of course, they
Mm-hmm.
obviously would prefer candidates that do have that, but I'm just saying I think that's what it could potentially happen. Or they bring on maybe marketing or social media firms that are non-traditional and all comprised of young 20 something year olds, again, that aren't formally trained, but they just know how to go viral, have that success on the new social media, and make it work.
Yeah, I mean, I think you brought up a very important point, which is like just paying attention and observing those trends. I mean, that's something I personally find hard to do because I can get very sucked into like the consumer aspect of it and just like scrolling and like laughing and or
Right.
looking at something interesting and go, oh, I like that. I can get very caught up. I think it's very easy for everyone to get caught up into that. But on the flip side of it, yeah, if you use social media for paying attention and reading those trends and people are doing this, or okay, we can do something with that. And changing up a little bit more to your page, your audience can make a huge difference in anything. I mean, it can grow your
Yes.
account astronomically just by doing something the right way for your page and then your audience, and then next thing you know, it's reaching 50,000 people that are now part of your audience. Like it's crazy to me, but that's a very very valid point that If I hit the mic, but that's a very, very valid point that doesn't get brought up a lot. Is that that's the other half of it, and that's that pain. That's the harder half of it too. Is the paying attention part because, like I said, it's super easy to just oh, I'm gonna pick up my phone and scroll for 3 hours a day,
Right.
and I'm gonna do Twitter for an hour. I'm gonna do Instagram for an hour. And I'm gonna do TikTok for an hour, and then
Yeah.
like yeah, and
Yeah.
I didn't consume. I consumed a lot, but I didn't pay attention to anything.
Right.
Um,
These platforms make it accessible too, and that's the beauty of it, right? Like gone are the days of like having like I don't know, you have to have some like deep insights and you know navigate through whatever to try to get information. Like if you have a website to try to decode all your traffic and stuff, like TikTok as an example, but I mean Instagram and Twitter do the same thing. They put it right in front of your face with graphs and charts that make it super easy to understand. Like, hey, your video, this is how many views you got on this day, and like this is your user base and what times they're active. Like how they hand you that on a silver platter, right? And I think like
yeah,
that's unbelievable. Like they're doing all the work for you. They're figuring out when your user base is active, what they're even looking at. I mean, TikTok gives you videos that your followers have seen this week. Like I
really
don't
interesting.
understand
Okay,
how like better you could get. You know what I mean? Like to try to figure out
yeah.
what to do or what not to do or whatever.
Mhm.
And it's not an end all be all, but it's so much better than trying to go in completely blind and trying to just throw something in the wall and see what sticks, which you can do and then figure that out on your own, right? Or you can accelerate the process and use all the information they give you.
Yeah.
But
Do you think that part of, sorry to interrupt, but do you think that
no,
they partially give you that information so that you post at the maximum time, so that therefore their platforms are going to use it the maximum number of time? You know, like they give you that data, but it's also like a win-win for them because it's like you have your most followers on at 6 o'clock, you're gonna get your more engagements at 6 o'clock, and you're like, I gotta post at six. Then you post at
right.
six, and you get more engagements, but then they're also getting more people are coming on at six to see your stuff, yada yada. Kind of
It
get what I'm
could
saying?
be. I
It's
mean,
it's
no,
like
I
I mean,
totally
it
see
does
that
work.
point.
It does really work for you, the creator. It does. There's no doubt about it. Like I used to when I first started my Instagram, which is not crazy big or anything, but when I first started it, I was like, you know, I'm gonna keep a log of my analytics every week. So I'm not just
That's a
gonna
great
like,
idea.
and I still have the Excel spreadsheet. I have been slacking off on it recently, so I need to get back into it. But like, I'm was keeping track of it for like 4 or 5 months. I could see which weeks hit and which weeks weren't hitting. And I could go back and go, oh, these posts, these posts, these posts, these posts, and know, okay, I worded this one this way. I put this video with this, these hashtags, and it was really working. I grew pretty quickly, and then I obviously, like I've talked to you off camera, I kind of had a little creative block there for a little while. I haven't been growing
Right.
as much recently, but those things happen. We'll get to those. But
Sure.
it is so useful, and like you're saying, that's another thing is they do give you those tools. But I've always like now I'm like kind of curious, like I wonder if they give us those tools because they want to also improve their site. They want you to maximize the number of people they can get on and stuff like that. So
I think it's definitely a give and take. I mean,
absolutely.
I'll put it out right. Like Instagram and Twitter, I don't know. I wouldn't say don't know how to use. Obviously, I know how to use it, but I'm not using it to the way to like that I'm doing on TikTok, where it's like I'm actively trying to grow and actively trying to like reach people I haven't reached before.
Right.
With Instagram and Twitter, I'm literally like Twitter. I use mostly for work and then occasionally shit posting once in a while. And then Instagram is like for my friends and everyone that follows me right now. Like I don't have really a desire to like grow crazy. I mean, I would be cool if I did, but I'm not working towards it. Whereas TikTok, I'm actively like I said, looking at my analytics and trying to figure it out. And to that point of you saying, does it work for them? It absolutely works for them because here I am, right, trying to make things work. What am I going to do? I'm going to post more, right? I'm going to look through my feed more to try to figure that out. I'm going to leave more comments. Well,
Hmm.
that's all just driving their own traffic up, right? I'm seeing more ads. I'm seeing whatever, and so yes, it's definitely like a mutual relationship in that way. And I mean, aside from the giant creators, right, like Charlie D'Amelio and all them who have 100 million followers, and they literally open the app, post, close out the app, and then rake in, how hundred
Right.
thousand dollars in creator fund money. Uh, the people like us who are trying to grow and trying to figure things out, it's definitely a relationship that goes both ways. TikTok's giving us information and we're giving them information by trying to make it work for us. So That's definitely a good point. I didn't really even think of it like that until you mentioned it, but it's true. I
Jimmy,
mean, the more
yeah.
time we spend on the app, you know,
Yeah, the better for them and the better for
sure.
us. It's something I honestly never thought about, so we were just talking about it today. But I was like, I wonder what he thinks about it. So we go
No,
from
that's a great point. Yeah, I really didn't think of it like that, but it's definitely the case.
there. You have like a 3-part series which I want to talk to you about on your TikTok now. That's about being TikTok verified.
Yes,
And I was
yes,
curious about that because I was like, "What is this?" And you were like, "Oh, it's about getting." You were just like, "Oh, it's about getting verified on TikTok." And I was like, "You can get verified." I didn't even know. I feel like so
yes. You
stupid.
can.
I was like,
Oh
"We
my God.
can," and you were like, "Yeah." I was like, "All right." That shows how much I like practically use
It's
TikTok. I don't use TikTok as much as I should, and that's something I want to change in 2021. But I want to know more about this mini series you have going on TikTok about getting
it's so
verified.
fun. All right. Well, so first of all, disclaimer: anyone watching, I'm not a TikTok employee, and TikTok, if you're watching this, I'm not an employee. I don't have inside info. Don't
He's
ban my
a
account because they've
videographer
actually been
for
going on
YouTube.
a spree of unverifications from people, which I'll get to in a minute. But uh, so yeah, I mean, just like Twitter or Instagram, you can be verified on TikTok. But so it's very interesting. So I guess if the TikTok thing that I just made is a 3-part series, this is the encyclopedia version. I'll go all the way back to the beginning and go all the way up to 2021. So back in Musically days, right? But that's what TikTok was before. Musically had crowns, I believe. I think it was. I didn't have Musically, so I'm just what I that's what I think it was.
Mhm. They
They
had
had crowns.
their version of verified. That
Yes,
was yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I believe it was like a little crown symbol. So that was given to someone who went viral, right? If you had like a viral video that had like, not TikTok viral. Now TikTok viral is like 5 million, right? Back in Musically days, I think it was like 150,000, 200,000. So if you had a video or two that went viral, they'd give you the crown. Cool. It made you stand out, whatever. Then Musically converted to TikTok, and then I'm pretty sure for a while, like when TikTok first started, there was no indication of anything. And then quickly they found out, okay, well, public figures are joining, people who are verified elsewhere are joining. They need to come up with a system. And the first way they did it was you had uh, check marks for a popular creator, which was the same thing as Musically, right? So if you had a viral video, they'd give you, I think it was a green color, and it said popular creator. And then if it was like an actual public figure, like an actor or actress or whatever, then you get the verified check mark. So there was two types. And then I think in beginning of 2020, even it was actually pretty recent. They just consolidated it into one check mark, and it's just a little blue tick next to the name. It doesn't say anything, just means it's verified.
Mhm.
So that was kind of the history of verifications. But it's funny because you know I I'm verified on Twitter because of Yahoo, right? That was like through them. Um,
Woo.
Yeah, which is great. I'm very because like I
Yeah.
wasn't expecting that actually.
I'd
It's
like a
awesome.
check mark for sure.
Yeah, yeah, it was cool. I mean, and listen, it's all fun and nice to have, but I mean, it does serve its purpose because I am a video producer, and if I have to reach out to guests, right, I need to have some sort like there needs to be some distinguishment that I'm legitimate, right? That I'm coming from a place of working for Yahoo and
Mhm.
not just talking out my ass. So that was the way they kind of like went over it. And of course, it's
That's
it's a
funny.
lot more important for journalists, because they reach out to everyone on every story they do and all the time. So
Mhm.
for me, it's obviously a little less, but it doesn't disqualify me from still being in that category. So that was that. So then Twitter happened, and then when I got TikTok, I kind of like, I posted a few things here and there, and then I kind of got into the whole um world of like social media management a little bit and trying to like have a better understanding of this side of like a social media, the
Mhm.
whole verification thing. And it's funny because there's like not obviously there's almost no documentation on it anywhere because it's generally not a public kind of like thing,
Right.
like that people don't really talk about it for a very good reason because most of the companies, if you're, let's say, filling out like a verification application or whatever, it's confidential and you can't speak about it. But in the whole like, I mean more so the side of like requirements and like what criteria does each set to actually get verified, and
Mhm.
I was just fascinated because there's almost no information out there. And so I kind of like did my own little journey of like trying to figure things out. and I connected one of my friends who like was doing the same kind of thing, and just kind of like just getting all into this. And I kind of stumbled upon the fact that like, I technically qualified to be verified for TikTok, and so I did the whole application process and I got it. And to me, it was just like, okay, this is the same thing as Twitter. Like, it's nice to have whatever. But there's this whole culture on TikTok, and obviously it's all for, I would say, anyone under 18. Like, most people over 18 don't really care as much because it's the same way I feel. I'm just like, whatever, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But there's people like, especially like I have a bunch of like Fortnite kids that follow me, and I love them to death. But like, it's just obsessed with like the check mark, right? And because I had it at like, I got it when I was like excuse me, I got verified when I had like 50 followers. And there's this
What?
common notion on TikTok that it's like you get it if you have like 1 million or 2 billion or 3 billion, like someone who's like a big public figure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was just like, no, like you guys are missing the point. Like, that's not what it's there for. It's not only for public figure. I mean, like large public figures. It's to say, all it means is I am who I am. Like, yes, I work for Yahoo. Like, if I'm reaching out to you, this is me, and you know what I mean, and that's it. And so that series that you see is a result of that. But that's the most recent one, because it's like they kind of changed their requirements a little bit in 2021. They're getting a lot stricter with it.
So I should
But
get in. I should get in now. Is what you're saying?
yeah,
I
basically,
should.
yes. Well, so that's the thing. It's actually really tough now. But going back to the past 3 months, I've had my TikTok. It's not so much anymore because I've made videos on it, and now I have a larger following, so it's not as bad. But literally every other comment I was getting in the beginning was just like, "How are you verified? How are you verified?"
Everyone's
And
wanting to know.
I used to joke on my roommate like, "Oh my god, like if I took a shot every time I got this, like I'd be dead. I'd be like beyond like resuscitation because I would get it all
On
the
every
time.
video.
It
On
would be
every
like
video too.
not even my own videos. Like, I would just comment on someone else's, and it would just be a flood underneath, and I'm just like what? Like,
That's too
okay,
funny.
so I'm like, you're clearly clicking on my profile to see that I only have like 100 followers, right? But you're not moving your eyeballs 2 more inches down where it says video producer for Yahoo Finance. And then I realized, you know what? Half of these kids probably don't even know what Yahoo Finance is. And so it doesn't even matter if I tell them to go read my bio. They're probably
I
like,
know
I
that.
don't know what that is.
I'm on dancing TikTok, sir. What
Yeah,
is that?
yeah. So I was just like, all right, I said, forget it. Like, I'm not gonna stress about it or whatever. But it's just so funny because to me, it's not that big of a deal. It's
Of
nice
course.
to have, but like, oh my god, like some people are just crazy. And someone made like a fan page of me, which is hysterical, and like an edit of me, like my own like images, like people do for like Charlie D'Amelio and like Dixie, where they'll have like pictures like going to like the music, and I'm just like, this is insane. Like they like I'm just me, like I'm just some dude. I'm the one. Like, I'm not an actor. I'm not like a
Yeah.
huge TikTok star. It's the funniest shit, man. It really is.
I mean, it
Like,
is.
I think it's hysterical.
Well, it is. I get what you're saying. Like people think about like being verified. Like, I mean, you're like it's not that big of a deal, but most people see the verified thing and they automatically think like famous person. Like they just automatically
Right.
they're like
Oh,
famous
it's so
person,
funny.
and you're like, no, I'm just a videographer at Yahoo, but it's very important to my job, like that I'm
Right.
approved and yada yada yada. But yeah, even in my head, when I think of verification, I'm like, gotta be famous. But now that you were talking about it, I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense because I've seen journalists on like Twitter and stuff like that that get the check mark and everything, and it's the same thing for them. It's like showing that these are my credentials. Yes, I do write for the Washington Post or the New York Times. Like I actually do. I'm not just like you're saying some random person and putting it in my bio and hoping for the best.
Exactly. That's the thing, right? And actually, it's funny because TikTok is the last place I thought I would actually reach out to someone and have to like, have the check mark there to actually like support me. But I did. Our company of the year for 2020 was Zoom, and there was this viral video of a teacher using Zoom like for her classroom, and we wanted to use it. And so I reached out, I sent her a message. I sent her a DM on TikTok and I said, hey, I'm from Yahoo, blah, blah, blah. And, if I wasn't verified, who knows if she would have seen it or not? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because I
Yeah.
know TikTok will prioritize like verified DMs or whatever. But
You've been DM'd by a verified account,
yeah,
and
so
they're like,
but it
who?
was good. I was just like, oh, I'm glad she saw it. We ended up getting permission and it was great. And it worked out. But I'm like, I almost want to like make a video just to be like, this is why I have it. It's not because I'm famous. It's not because whatever. It's just funny to me in that regard. But yeah, so going back to the whole like requirements thing, I think, and the little series I mean, is because there's so much misinformation, and it's understandable. I mean, a lot of, like I said, a lot of these kids are young. They don't like grasp the whole concept of like like journalists reaching out to, like, it's just like, oh, like you said, like checkmark famous person, and I'm trying to like
Yeah.
dispel the myth, like, no, like that's not the case. Like there's a very like certain way that these platforms go about it, and for that exact reason is why TikTok is making it harder this year, 2021, for you to become verified, right? Because they're trying to dispel that notion. They're trying to like stop the whole like, oh, checkmark equals person who's famous and does TikTok dances. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no, like they're trying to go around that and make sure people understand, like, we're trying to be like Twitter, we're trying to be like Instagram and be upright and like, reserve the verification system for the same reasons that the other platforms do. So they're trying to break away from that, and that's why you're seeing a wave of like actual unverifications, believe it or not,
Okay.
which is kind of crazy. And listen, again, TikTok, if you see this, I love you, but I don't agree with a lot of the unverifications they're doing, because it's kind of,
They're coming for you. Better watch it. I'm just
I
kidding.
know, I know. Well, like there was this music producer inside. I don't talk to him at all, but someone had commented on my video with that, and he posted a video explaining, or not explaining, excuse me, making a joke about like how to uh like get verified. And it had something to do with like talking to like a TikTok employee. Now I don't know the actual details of the video, so I'm not like defending it. Like it may very well have broken guidelines and could have gotten removed. So I'm not gonna like say like, oh, like the video should have been kept up. I have no idea. I never saw it for whatever reason. So it was removed, right? And it violated community guidelines, and you get a notification from TikTok. Now, because of that, he reached out to TikTok and he realized he got his verification check removed. Now he's verified on Instagram and Twitter or whatever, so you would think it would obviously remain.
Mm-hmm.
And they got back to him and were like, no, like you violated community guidelines, like sorry, like you can't have your verification anymore.
Dang.
And that's their thing. That's they're like making it a point in 2021, like anyone who has the verification has to adhere to community guidelines, and they want to make an example out of accounts. They don't want people who have it going around, doing like crazy stuff and getting their videos removed. That's not what they want. And it's like, again, do I necessarily agree with that? No, because everyone makes a mistake. Sure, you get a warning, right? You get the video removed. Maybe a first time offense. I don't think you should get your whole check mark stripped. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? That's
A
not
little warning
necessarily the most
sign,
severe
a
thing.
little,
Yeah.
don't
If
do
you're a
that
repeat
again.
offender, I mean, Twitter does the same thing. And this is aside from Donald Trump getting banned. I'm just specifically talking about their regular guidelines for everyone else. If you
Now you brought it up, we gotta talk. Okay.
No, I know we will, but if you repeatedly break guidelines,
Yeah,
they have permission to take away. They say like we can remove
whatever
verification
we
status.
choose. Yeah.
So it's a it's an interesting battle in that regard. But yeah, so TikTok's definitely getting a little more like uppity and serious with their system this year, and you know again, not going in, I can't really go into too much detail because like I said, the actual application is confidential, but I've been working or tried to work with a few people to like help them submit and get verified, and TikTok's not even giving them the time of day, whereas
Wow.
last year it would have been a completely different conversation. You know,
So there seems like they're trying to legitimize their app a bit more.
yes,
Make it,
they're definitely
yeah, make it so that it's like, okay, you know, because I think especially nowadays a lot of all the apps are coming under fire with all different stuff, and yeah, I mean I've seen videos where it's like journalists and videotaping, at whatever it might be, either at one protest or another protest. And yeah, it's just like you want to make sure that those people that are videoing or posting videos about it aren't putting out, horrible facts about it and,
right,
and not getting the right things correct. And they want to make sure that it is legit. Like, okay, this is a minute video of this protest, and this is the, from this journalist's point of view, and
right.
here is the journalist, he works for so and so, and yada yada. So like, yeah, I totally understand it. I mean, it's better to have it legitimized than just Wild West in a sense.
Right.
A little bit of both, as what I would say, is always comforting.
Yeah.
Can't go too,
Yeah.
you can't lean
I
too
see.
much one way, can't lean too much the other way, because then you get,
No,
yeah.
no. I see both sides of the coin here. I mean, the person that I just tried to help recently, she's very well qualified in my eyes. I mean, from what I see,
Mm-hmm.
she's a pro in her sport, if you want to call it. She's a professional race car driver, but um, you know, championship, whatever, verified on Twitter, tons of press. I mean, tons and tons of press, like
Yeah.
a list, the length of my screen. All things that last year it would have been not even a question that she would have gotten it. You know what I mean? It would have been
Mm-hmm.
like no problem, done, because that's what it used to be. But now, she reached out, whatever application process, denied immediately, didn't even get a chance to present her case. And it's
Wow.
just like, it's rough. It's like, well, I guess they are moving towards that, and they are, what, like we just said, they're trying to kind of like move towards a more traditional, um, like set of requirements. But at that point, you're like, well, she's already verified on Twitter, so obviously Twitter sees that she meets the criteria, and then it becomes the battle of like, well, okay, well, what social media platform is like right versus wrong in terms of
Mm-hmm.
their criteria? But TikTok is exploding, as we just said. Like, they are growing so fast, they can't even keep up with themselves. And so I'm sure for that reason, they don't have the time necessarily to like make these like hair splitting decisions. Like, well, let's really look
Yeah.
into X and Y's like past.
Yeah.
And this is just, I'm talking about the general like way to apply. And again, I can't like specifically discuss it, but those who know, like, there's a public way to apply, and then of course there's also like if you know an employee or whatever, and that's like, I'm not referring to that, but I'm talking about the normal application process is now completely different. So it's unfortunate, but at least I'm glad to have gotten in kind of before everything kind of changed. I probably still would be able to, like, if I wasn't now already verified, I feel like I could qualify, but I'm not TikTok, so I don't know. Who knows what it would be like if I had to try to do it now, but um it's very interesting to say the least. And so that's why I made those videos, just to kind of like give everyone a little bit of insight, not too much, because I'm sure TikTok would not like that. So I tried to keep it very neutral, and
Right.
free of like specific detail, but just to give people a little more insight, and people are very receptive to it because no one wants to talk about it, because most of the people that have the checks
Want to keep the checks
are,
to them. Yeah. They
they want
want
to, well, also, like
they don't
like
want
I
to.
said, there's a split of people that are huge, right, who are
Yeah.
just making their own videos. They don't want to talk about that, they don't have time to talk about that. And then the other people, are maybe just don't care or whatever. They just don't want to. Yeah, they're afraid of getting in trouble. So I'm trying to like walk the line in the middle and be like, hey, here's some info, as much
Mm-hmm.
as I can give, kind of thing. But it's very interesting. And like I said, there's like a whole universe that kind of exists around verifications, in the sense of like,
How people see them and stuff like that.
yeah, people see
Mm-hmm.
it, but also people trying to acquire it. So you can kind of, I don't know if you know this, but I mean, if you wanted to right now, if you had the budget, you could get yourself everything you like wanted in terms of like press coverage on yourself, and every platform verified. Like, there are people who do this all for a living. You know what I mean?
I did
There's
not
there's
know that.
PR
That's interesting.
agencies, and yeah, there's a whole world that exists on that side, and I haven't fully jumped into it, but I've been on the outside of it just to kind of look in, and it's insane. But it always requires crazy amounts of money, and it's nuts, and it's not something I necessarily like want to get too into, because that's its own kind of like
Mm-hmm.
beast to handle. But just to say that, like, there are like some people that you do see that are verified, like they definitely just completely paid their way for it. You know what I mean? Like, it's all manufactured as opposed to being legitimate, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then instead of like building something from the ground up, they're paying for it to happen, and
Yes, they're
it's
forcing the spotlight quickly. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, they're
almost,
just kind of,
yeah, yeah. I just had what I was gonna say about it, but almost like they're taking a shortcut in a sense.
yes, yes. And that's what I mean. Like, we could sit here all day and debate like the morals of like that, and like this and that. And at the end of the day, it's still gonna go on, right? It's still gonna happen, blah blah
I would
blah.
say
But
I'm willing to bet most of the people I feel like a lot of people in the U.S. would be like, yeah, I'd do it. Like, I just feel like, something like people want that check mark. Like you're saying that's something that
Sure.
people
No,
strive for.
listen,
I mean, if anything, if the
it's
guidelines are harder, it's giving creators something harder to strive for and something, better for them to get. Something
yes,
really prove yourself as a creator to get that mark. And if in my opinion, that's not so bad. If it
right.
is,
No,
if
I
it is
get it.
limited harder, but everyone's got their opinions on it.
Sure. I mean, it's listen. At the end of the day, how different is it than 20 years ago? Someone hiring a PR agency for themselves to shape the press that's about them, right? Or their
True.
connections at a newspaper or a blog. Like
It's a good way of looking at it. It's a very good way of looking
it's
at it.
no different now, right? You're taking even more charge of it because these people, have direct access to publish your own articles and so on and so forth. And so, it's just I think it's just a reflection of the times, kind of. It's like a shift into modern. It's like a modern day version of that. And there's a lot of use cases that are totally valid. Like, what if there's a brand that just simply doesn't have the connections to get submitted for Facebook, Instagram, whatever, and they need help, right? They're gonna pay for it. They're gonna pay for that connection,
Absolutely, yeah,
right? To
yeah,
to get someone who's close with the companies and do it for them. And there's no shame in that. Like, and that's just the same thing. You just have a person as opposed to that company or whatever. So it's very interesting. And it's never something I like until I got verified on Twitter. I was obviously not paying any attention to it
of course.
whatsoever, as most people don't, because it's not really something that was ever, a thing. But I like to speak on it purely for the fact of trying to change people's like
Idea of it,
perception.
yeah.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
that like demystifying the whole like the concept of it. Like, oh, it's like, oh my god, like, how does one get it's I'm like, nah, it's pretty cut and dry. Like there's requirements. You can generate your own or have it happen naturally, but it's pretty straightforward. And in fact, Twitter just a week ago came out and put it even clearer than any other brand has ever done, and said exactly, if you want to get verified, this is exactly the criteria you have to meet to a T. So there's no confusion, there's no mystification. If you want it, here's exactly what you have to do, which is amazing because no other brand has done that,
Yeah, then you just got
right?
it. Then now it's up to the people that want it to just go and get it and be
And
done
go
with
and
it.
get it, right? And
And
it
that's what
puts it
will,
out for you, and
yeah.
it's exactly what you have to
And then
do.
it'll separate
And
the people that want to go do it and the people that don't really want to go do it. I mean,
yes,
it's funny how like that stuff works. Is sometimes like you think you want something and then you know the criteria and you don't, and then other times you hear it and you're like, that's it, that's perfect. Now I know what exactly I have to do. I'm gonna go for it. And like
right,
sometimes people that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing. It's giving everyone the same opportunity right at the beginning, saying if you want the blue check mark, anyone can get it. Here it is, boom.
right.
Rather than leaving it as like mysterious and people thinking like, oh my god, only famous people get it. It's like no, no, no. We're
Right.
telling you
Oh,
everybody. We're telling you exactly the criteria that you can
that's
get
such
it.
a good point. That is
Yeah.
such a good point. I really appreciate you saying that. That's like a quote. If you even, I would love to quote that, but it's true because it's like, oh my God, like if every brand, excuse me, every social media platform simply put their requirements up in as much detail as Twitter did, we'd have so much more peace, right? There'd be like so much more
So
like
the
like
world would
no
stop.
confusion about it. Like oh yeah, yeah, it'd solve all
World
the world's
peace.
problems. No, but it's true. It's like it would end the mystification. Like it ended it for Twitter, right? But why can't Instagram and Facebook do the same thing?
Mm-hmm.
And TikTok is the worst. I hate to say it, but they're just like, oh, we verify accounts that are like authentic and genuine or whatever. I'm like, what does that even mean? Like every account, if there's a real
Every
person
person's
behind the
authentic.
account, I'm authentic, right? I'm
Yeah, yeah,
genuine. I'm me.
yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. I'm my own
So does that
brand.
mean
Yeah.
everyone gets it? It's like, no, obviously not. So it's like, okay, well, then what's the actual requirements? But, again, that's why everyone should take a lead from Twitter and completely spell it out, and even that was just now, like that was just a week ago. Before
Yeah.
then, it was just as mystified as was any other platform. And now it's just good that they put it out because it's like, if you qualify or you don't, that's it. And of course there's still going to be cases where people get it who may have a connection or whatever, or may know someone, blah blah blah, and that's all fine. We know that's going
That's
to
part
happen
of it. That's
anyway.
always part of anything, and
Right,
is
right.
having
But for the
sometimes the
most part
connections
now,
help you the most.
yeah,
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 it's a
for
part
the
of
most
everything.
part, at least now it's laid out, so makes it a little bit easier.
So I want to pull back a little bit from the TikTok verification. I think we covered that.
Yes,
We went on a long
definitely
rant
in
about it,
depth.
but no,
Definitely
but
in depth.
really great. That's in a lot of information that I personally didn't know, and I'm sure a ton of other people didn't know. But I want to go into the fact that you yourself are a videographer for Yahoo, and
Yes,
specifically more Yahoo Finance.
yes,
So I kind of want to know more about that. How, how do you enjoy that role? How that role come about? And honestly, like, what is it that you are doing with that role? I know we talked a little bit off camera about it, but um, I'm curious about the ins and outs of it and your role within Yahoo Finance.
yeah. So my title is assistant video producer. So excuse me, I am an assistant producer, which is actually really exciting for me at my age because I feel like I've been told by everyone there that that's a title that usually comes a little bit later. So I'm actually really grateful to have that right now.
Well, you're good at what you do. That's what it comes
Well,
down to,
I
right?
appreciate that. Thank you. No, it's
Yeah,
just really
yeah.
exciting. I'm actually like I tell everyone who asks me like I absolutely am super grateful I had the chance to like take this job and be part of Yahoo Finance. So I started working there. Oh, it was September or basically October of 2019. It was like September 30th. Um, and so at the time when I got hired, and you'll understand why
Pre-COVID,
I'm distinguishing right now.
pre-COVID.
When I was hired, my
Yeah,
job
yeah, yeah.
was assistant video producer for the live events team, which meant any type of conference or any type of special event anywhere, in regarding to finance, we would go out and cover. So half the time that meant, even though it was traveling, it was still within New York City, right, which is where we're located, and we would do interviews and shoots around New York City,
Okay.
which was, like I said, about half of
I mean, hey,
half
that's the
of our
finance hub of the world, so it makes a lot of
exactly Wall
sense. It makes a
Street,
ton
all
of
that
sense.
exactly.
Yeah.
So many companies are in the city, so we would do a ton of interviews around New York City all the time, and then the other half was traveling, um, far and wide. I mean, all over the country. Very grateful to be traveling like that, and just again, just interviews, certain conferences and events, um, and when it came down to it, the actual core being a video producer means doing everything from start to finish. So I would travel to the shoot, I would set up all the gear, get the guests mic'd up, get everything ready, lights, all that stuff,
Mm.
record, tear down, head back, edit myself, and then put out a finished interview, clips, whatever, for television, web.
Keep going.
I
Keep going.
No, I
I
was
do have
like,
a
I thought
question.
you were gonna ask
I
me
do have a
something.
question. I do have a question, but
Okay.
I'm gonna let you finish what you're saying. I'm not gonna interrupt your statement. I want
No,
to
all good.
know.
Yeah,
I
so it'd be the
apologize.
complete kind of, if you will, food chain of video production. So that was, and at the time when I joined, that was in and of itself so much work, because when you're traveling like that, it takes a lot of time to, and we're carrying big cameras and huge Pelican cases all around, so it was just a lot. Um, but it's great, you know what I mean? Like this, the fact that I would walk into the office some mornings and my boss would be like, "Hey, can you go to Washington D.C. tonight?" And I was just like, "Oh, sure. Like, yeah, great. We have an interview
That's
tomorrow.
amazing.
Awesome."
That's great.
And I'd end up on a plane or a train to D.C. and then spend a day there. Stuff like that was normal. Or it's funny actually, um, because literally like the fifth day of my job, I had to fly to Boston and do an interview with the Federal Reserve Bank president of Boston, and I just started, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is the most intimidating thing I've ever done in my life,"
Wow.
because like I knew what I was doing
Hmm.
because I had the experience from before, right? But when you're in that situation, like I'm like, "Yo, I'm the only video. I mean, I wasn't the only video producer, but I was the main video producer for that shoot, you know." And here I am with like a high profile guest right away,
Right. Yeah.
and I just started. Like I barely got my desk set up. Like I was like, oh my god. So that was terrifying in its own right, but it worked out fine. And but that's just a good example of like what this job was like. Of course, pre-COVID, and then after COVID, it took a change.
So are you essentially like a one man show when you're doing that? You don't have a crew
That
with
is
you. It's just you.
Yes, we are a one-man band. So the thing is, I mean, we have our team. Like it's still a small team. But pre-COVID, it was even smaller. And of course we all operate together, but oftentimes it was each of us on an assignment, like in our own kind of like like let's say I was going to Boston, right, to
Yeah,
film that interview, and my coworker was going somewhere else to do their own interview. So I wouldn't edit his stuff, he wouldn't edit mine. We were operating on our own capacity in that way. But of course, we're working towards the bigger goal of, oh, the events team did X and Y interviews this week, right? When you look at it from like management or whatever,
of course.
they say,
Okay.
oh, the field team did 5 interviews this week. Okay, well, I did 2, my coworker did 3, blah blah blah. So we were all working towards a common goal, but we completely kind of operated independently,
Interesting.
which
So
is,
you're also the
yeah,
one
very
like
interesting.
you're also the one asking the interview questions and such. Then, from what you're
Okay,
from your,
so no,
or no,
actually, so we would always have a reporter who would actually be like asking the questions, and they would also write the article.
this is someone who
I would
also
just edit the
works
video.
for Yahoo Finance, or no?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
all Yahoo
Okay.
Finance people. Yes.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
Yahoo Finance has a pool of reporters who are also the on-camera talent during our live show during the day,
Gotcha.
from 9 to 5. But and we'll get more into that in a second. But uh, so it would always be like me and a reporter. Yeah, it would always be 2 people at least on a shoot, if
Okay,
not
that
more.
makes sense.
So the bigger shoots required more producers, which I was to say my next thing was sometimes we did have bigger shoots that we had to work on together. A good example being we did Warren Buffett in March, so we had to fly to Omaha, Nebraska. Everyone came for that because that was a
Big.
huge
Yeah.
interview for us. Yeah, so we had every producer come out, the whole team. We had 3 cameras shooting in 4K. I mean, that was ridiculous. I still have the hard drive actually here with me
What's
because that's
what's
right when COVID lockdown started. Was right at that time, and I was just like, oh, I still have the hard drive here, and they're just like, yeah, just hang on to
just
it
hang on, yeah,
till when we
don't
get
lose
back.
that.
And here we are 9 months later.
What's
But
what's Warren like? What's Warren like?
he
Is he an
is
interesting fellow?
he's a very interesting guy. Um so like I said, this is right at the start of COVID, like lockdown, right before. It was the beginning of
Mm-hmm.
March.
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of in this weird state of like not
I
knowing
remember that. I remember that. I
exactly
know
what the
exactly what you're
best like
talking about. Yep.
thing was.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were like,
'Cause
okay,
no
I'm
one.
about to fly, but there's no mask mandate. But
Yeah.
like maybe I should wear a mask. Like I don't know. Like no one really
Yeah.
knew.
It was weird. The end of February, early March. No one. I had to go to training, and we had to fly out and go to training for our
Yeah.
jobs, and we were like, and that was right when I remember being in the Atlanta airport and starting to see people wear masks, and we were like, and I remember looking at my coworker and we're like, they're wearing masks. Is this like more serious than we think? Like, what's like?
Right.
We had no idea. We had no idea
Yeah.
at the time.
No. And even us, I mean, being a news org, we usually are slightly ahead of the curve with things. But even we were in the dark, like we didn't know. So we flew to Omaha, and we get there and we're like, uh Warren Buffett is an old guy. Like his immune system, I'm sure, is
He's an
susceptible.
old
We're
guy.
like, we asked his team, we're like, should we be wearing a mask? Like we didn't, again, we didn't know.
Yeah.
And so we're going back and forth. We're setting all this stuff up. We're just trying to debate. And
Buffett comes out giving hugs to everybody. He's like, "Hey, what's going on?"
I literally,
That's
yes.
so
So we're
funny.
setting up in his office. We're waiting
Yeah.
for the security team to come up, and he comes out of the elevator by himself. No one, no secretary, nothing with him. And he's just like, "Hey, what's up?" And he's like shaking everyone's hand and like laughing and having a good time. And we're just like,
Drinking his
"Okay,
Coca-Cola.
this is what we're going with. Like, sure, no problem." We sit him down. He always has his Coca-Cola with him.
That's what I've heard about him. Is his Coca-Cola.
Always
He
got the
loves that
Coke. I mean,
Coca-Cola.
Berkshire is obviously a major stakeholder in Coca-Cola, so he's always got the product with him. But it's more than I mean, on a personal level, I believe it's more than just like the optics. Like he really loves Coca-Cola. I mean, like when he talks about it and he's drinking so much of it, it's crazy.
He has like 4 or 5 a day. I think he does. Yeah.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh my god!" One of our interview questions was literally like, "What is the key to like your good health?" And he's like, "I drink 2 Cokes a day." And we're like, "Are you serious?"
Oh my
and
god.
he's like, "Yeah." And his whatever PR person or whatever was just like looking at us like, "Oh my god!" Like he just said that, and we kept it in. It was just the funniest thing. I was like, "Okay."
It gets the stress out. He has that nice Coke. He leans back.
It's so funny. So
and then he's good.
Hysterical.
And then he trades $1 billion and he's great. He doesn't care.
He's the funniest guy. He really is. But he's so knowledgeable. Like he's so full of like really good info. I mean, and it's one thing, when I'm there, I'm focused on making sure the shot's good, blah blah blah. But then when I got to edit, his interview, which I did, that was 100% my edit, which I'm very proud of. Our Warren Buffett interview for the year. I think that all the clips combined now have like hundreds of millions of views. I don't have the actual analytics, but it's insane. because people love him. I mean, he's a financial idol.
Absolutely. I mean,
Like his
yeah,
advice.
everyone knows who Warren Buffett is in the
Everyone,
investing,
everyone, even the
especially in
little
the
kids on TikTok know Warren Buffett. That's the
yeah,
best
yeah,
part. They're
yeah.
like, "Oh my God, Warren Buffett!" I'm like, "Yes." But so, but point being, like when I was editing it, I was actually like listening, like to what he was saying, and it's just like obviously the guy knows his stuff. He has the proof to back it, but it's just so good, and he went for an hour and a half, and we cut it down to like 55 minutes, I think. But if we didn't stop, he could have kept going. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, I'm
he's one of
sure.
those guys, like he
Hmm.
can just go. And even after we turned the cameras off, he was just chatting with us, and we had to leave because we had to catch our flight. But he is very full of wisdom, and he is very personable, and exactly how you see him on camera is how he is in real life, which is amazing.
That's what always people like to hear too. They don't like to hear that
Yeah.
they're different off camera than then. And with anyone, not just Warren Buffett, but in general, they want authentic. They like authentic people.
Oh, he is definitely authentic.
And
He's funny.
I
Yeah.
think that's part of the reason why people do like him and follow his investing stuff a little bit more, is because he does seem when he's up there talking, he just seems authentic. And then now you telling me he is authentic, it's like, yeah, of course, it confirms it a little bit more than.
Oh
But
yeah.
that's what is great appeal. It has a lot of appeal to people, especially nowadays when this. Let's say we talked about everything with famous TikTokers and everything. It's like we want authentic. We're tired of some of
Oh,
the BS to
absolutely.
an
No,
extent,
it's that's always been a thing I've noticed when like when I'm interviewing different people. It's like, oh, like are they like authentic? How they how they present online or on TV or whatever. Another person, I'll deviate quickly from Warren Buffett. I'll go
No,
back
I
to
was
him,
gonna
but
ask you what are some of your favorite interviews. So perfect.
oh,
Deviate away. Let's hear him. Let's hear
you
him.
know who Anthony Scaramucci is of Skybridge Capital? He
No, I'm
was
not too familiar.
he was Trump's uh oh my god, was it not press secretary? Jesus, this is embarrassing considering I literally worked on the interview. But he was in the white Trump's administration for like 9 days, and then he left. So it was like the shortest stint in like White House history or something like that.
That's
And so
sounds like
he's like
the
known
Trump
for that.
presidency.
And
There you go.
yeah, and Skybridge also is a huge investment firm. They have a huge portfolio, but he is a character like online. He is very strongly opinionated, but also very funny. And he is exactly how I thought he would be in person. Like we were just setting up for the interview, and he just um we had to like he wasn't there when we first arrived at Skybridge, so
Hmm.
his secretary or whoever had let us in and was like, oh, he said like you guys can move whatever you need in his office to accommodate like the cameras, like don't be afraid to move things, you're good. Like I was like, okay, great. So obviously we're careful moving things around, but I think I had to like move a picture. It wasn't on the wall. It was like on a display. I had to like shift that and
Hmm.
move some other things. And he comes in and I didn't even like it wasn't interview time. This was like an hour before. Like he just walks into the office and I turn around and I had a PA with me and we're both looking at him and he's like, "Oh, did you move whatever, picture?" And I was
It's
like,
just ball busting right away.
and he's like, "Oh, no, I'm just fucking with you." He's like, "It's all good." And I was like, "Oh my god." I was like, "You scared the shit out of me."
Yeah, he
And
immediately
he was
starts.
just laughing. He thought it was the funniest thing. I was like, "Oh my god." He's like, "Oh, he's all like so nice, like talking to us and just whatever, and like showing things around his office." And I was like, "This guy's great." And he's like, "Oh, you," he's like, I was like, "Oh, can we take a picture?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course." And he's like, he took a bunch. It was great. He was fun. So it's very interesting to see like the different people that I get to do interviews with and like compare them to like how they are, whatever, like online or their personas. But
So
he was definitely the funniest. And when we one last note on him, when we
no, go ahead.
had our all market summit,
Hmm.
which is like Yahoo Finance's one of our Super Bowls, if you will. We have like a bunch of guests from all different sections of the finance, world, and basically just talking panels and stuff. Uh, he did his like interview or whatever you want to call it from the beach on his phone.
That's hysterical.
And I tweeted that and he retweeted it and it went viral because I thought it was the funniest thing, which it was. And it was just like I was just like, am I seeing this right? Like, because I had the like producer display pulled up of all the different feeds of all the guests,
Hmm.
and everyone's like, in a suit, where everyone's got the normal background, and then here's Scaramucci just wandering along the beach with his iPhone, and I was like, I was like, does he know he's up in like 3 minutes? And they're like, yeah, no, he does. Like, this is what he's doing, and I was like, oh, okay, great, and that's exactly what happened.
That's so funny. That's a big baller move right there.
Oh,
get down the
totally,
beach and just
total flex.
we were oh, who was it? One of the like no, not we, but I think one of the like senators or one of the White House, like one of the people that was in charge during COVID was telling people like stay inside, and then he got
Mhm.
caught having like the beach waves, like you could hear him in the background of his,
Oh my
like he was
god,
doing the same thing
that
you're
don't
saying. He
surprise me.
he had like his Zoom thing on. He put like the fake background, but then you could hear like the waves and like the seagulls like behind him. I
Oh
can't remember
my
who it was, but
god,
I heard
got
about this,
caught.
and he
Yeah,
got
that's
caught like
crazy.
red-handed. But so we talked about some of your good interviews. And
Yes.
without naming names, of course. Any bad interviews that come to mind?
Yo, that's funny.
I mean, you can. I don't want to make you name
No, I'm
names, which
thinking,
I
I'm
figured.
trying to like. It's funny because I don't think I've ever had like a like really bad interview. I've had difficulty in like arriving to places and like getting in or like credentials or whatever, and then I have like no time to set up. You know what I mean? That's what happens a lot.
Okay.
Like most of the guests are, even if they're maybe someone I'm not like personal with, like I've never had an unprofessional guest or anything, but it's always getting into places can be kind of crazy sometimes because we're carrying all this gear, right? And
Mhm.
sometimes we're invading, not invading, but it seems like we're invading spaces that are normally like we've had to do shoots at like galas and stuff, like, right? So here's all
Oh,
these
okay.
people in like dresses and suits, and here I come in a hoodie and
Yeah, and
jeans and
jeans,
my
ripped
giant
jeans.
Pelican cases, and I'm knocking into everyone like, get the hell out of my way, like I'm not trying to be like that, but I'm like,
Right.
yeah, I gotta go to where I need to be, and unfortunately, that's what it can be sometimes. So I've had that before, and I would say the craziest thing. So it's not necessarily bad, but definitely the wildest
Oh, I'm down for that. That
was
works.
CES Las Vegas, which was also definitely one of my favorite events I've ever done.
What is
Um,
CES Las Vegas exactly?
consumer, is it Consumer Electronics Show? Hold on, I'm gonna look it up. I don't want to misquote it. It's Consumer, yeah, yeah. Well, it used to be that was like the abbreviation, but now it's just called CES. But basically, it's like the world's biggest like tech gathering,
Okay.
right? And I mean, it's massive. It takes over the entire Las Vegas Convention Center. Also, every other hotel that has convention spaces has CES stuff during the week, like of CES.
Wow.
It's insane. I mean, thousands upon thousands of companies. I think it's like 300,000 people that come. It's massive. So obviously, this year was all digital. It literally just happened last week. We just finished coming off of CES 2021. It was all virtual, but I went in person at the beginning of 2020, and the Las Vegas Convention Center is like, I can't even like put into words how big it is. Like obviously I know there's whatever however long it is, but like the way they utilize the space
Yeah.
and like lay out all the different companies is mental. It's so well done, but it's so hard to navigate. And so you have the situation, right, where I would have live hits at like, let's say 9 o'clock from Google's booth, which is, this is a specific example. I had a live hit from Google's booth at like 9:10.
What do you mean by a live hit for those?
Oh
For,
yeah. So let me I'm sorry.
no, you're good. You're
Uh,
good.
So we have a live show from 9 to 5 on Verizon FiOS, which is a cable service provider here in New York, actually in the Northeast. Um,
We got FiOS down here.
oh, you do?
We can't.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know if
yeah.
you have Yahoo Finance as a channel. I'm very curious. I've been
I'll
told it's only
definitely
in the
look. I don't
Northeast.
I don't have that personally at home, but I know
Okay.
Verizon FiOS. Yeah,
Oh, that's great. I didn't know if it's
yeah.
nationwide. I know it's up here, but I'm curious. We'll figure that one out later. So yeah, so it's on FiOS, but most of our viewership comes from our website, so you can
Okay.
watch the live show on the website. So we do have a live show every day for news, and we supplement that with, when we can, live, interviews or whatever reporting from
Hmm.
wherever we are, and that is our job. The field, that's the field and events team's job. So we had a live broadcast from the Google booth at CES with an interview. I think it was like the VP of some one of their divisions. So we were talking about like the new like smart home stuff. So we had a live interview there, and literally it was like 9:10 to 9:15, and then at 9:25 we had another live interview at the Ford booth for their new car or whatever they were talking about, a new like electronic vehicle. And that was like way far. So I literally, we finished the interview, right? I took down the live shot the second they like finished, and we're like, "Oh, you're clear." And I just folded my tripod legs up, and I like fireman carried the like camera and tripod setup, running across the convention center just like ducking in between people and stuff, just trying to get as fast as I could to the Ford booth to set up. It was insane. I was like, this is crazy. Like I was sprinting. Like I literally had to sprint. I was like, yo, I never thought I would have
Dude.
been like my job, but I was laughing because I was like, this is so much fun. That's what I thought. And then that one day was just like back to back interview, and then it all culminated in we were covering uh an automotive company called Fisker, which is making electric vehicles.
Okay, I know them.
Yeah,
Their cars used to be a little bit more rare than they are now. You
yes.
just only
So the
see them here and
Fisker
there.
Ocean is their like crossover SUV thing that they were debuting last year, and so it was supposed to be an interview with someone from Fisker's team, and I'm getting ready to go live in like 2 minutes, and I have the producer in my ear who's directing me from New York and is like, okay, by the way, it's in Las Vegas, so oh, I said that though, Las Vegas Convention Center, but I
Yeah.
didn't specify it's actually in Las Vegas. So they're 3 hours ahead, but he's like, oh, you know, I think we had enough like one-on-one whatever interview. He's like, why don't you do like a walk and talk, which is basically like camera goes on my shoulder, right?
Yeah.
And like the guy has a mic, and now I got to walk around the car. Now I had not been set up for this at all, and I'd never actually even done one for Yahoo
hmm
before. And I'm finding this out 2 minutes before we're going live. So now I got to like pop the camera off the tripod, put it on my shoulder, make sure this guy, now the stage is spinning. This is the funniest part. So
Oh
because the
gosh.
car is rotating. So now I got to make sure that the like cord doesn't get wrapped around the car. I'm trying to walk. The guy's like holding my senior producers behind me, holding like my backpack. So I'm sturdy with the shot. It was so funny, dude. I was trying so hard not to laugh because I was like, this is absolutely ridiculous. But it's so much fun. And that's like the perfect example of like the craziness that I had to go through.
That's what comes with the videography part of the job. I mean, you never know what you're going to get yourself into, whether
No,
it's
definitely not.
standstill or you're
Definitely
having
not.
to move around. What's the hardest type of shots to get? I'm curious. Now that you mentioned like that was difficult for you to have to walk around with the car, but
Oh,
like
yeah.
if there's a
Um,
specific shot, you're like, oh, this is going to be hard. Like what is it? I mean, Yahoo Finance, I can't imagine it. You know, it's not like anything crazy. Like you're not like following motorcycles or something like that, but
no, no,
like
thankfully. Uh,
but maybe how about
it,
this? What about the most crazy, the most like difficult shot for you to take, whether at Yahoo Finance or on your personal side of videography?
oh, I could do both. Yahoo Finance for sure. I have to say it was the New York Stock Exchange. We were doing a one-on-one interview, and they put us on the balcony that's up top.
Hmm.
Like I don't know if you've ever seen like shots from the New York Stock Exchange, but they often have like cameras pointing down. That balcony is not made for a one-on-one interview setup. It's made for one camera to be looking down onto the trading floor, and that's it. There's no, so we had to like, and our cameras, we have lenses that have a wide, from very wide to very close up. But man, that was like one of the most challenging things I ever had to do. We really had to get creative with the space because we had to set up two cameras, two lights, all the audio equipment in like literally the width of like 4 feet, about maybe, and still have it look like a proper, like two-person one interview with one person on the left, one person on the right, and still have a closer shot of the guest. I was like, oh my god, we had to really like rack our brains, and we had to like take one of the tripod legs and like make it was like uneven with the other two and like prop it up on the wall so it was like kind of resting on the wall just to make sure we had enough space. So that was definitely the craziest for Yahoo. But in terms of my own, um any shot, I would just say this: being at a show or a festival, you have to be on your toes all the time. You
Okay,
can't
I
miss
agree with that.
anything because there might be that one drop in a song or that one moment that everyone goes crazy. And if you're not paying attention and you don't have your camera at the ready, you're going to miss it. And now you're not going to get that one crazy clip that you want. You know what I mean? That or that everyone wants. Or the fireworks are going to go off and you miss it. So many moments at specifically electronic shows and festivals happen so quick. You know what I mean? A fireworks burst at a drop is only 1 or 2 seconds and then it's
Right.
gone. So if you're not in the right position at the right time to get that, and if you're not working with the artist super directly where their set list and roughly what time something's
Hmm.
going to happen.
Okay, so that was gonna be my question.
Yeah.
That only occurs if you're particularly working. If the artist is assigned you, like said, I want you to come with me to this show, yada
Yes.
yada. You have actually have an idea of what's gonna happen when,
Somewhat
to an
right. So
extent,
some
of course.
DJs, I would say the bigger artists, like when you're dealing with EDC and like big festivals like that, right? Where they have fireworks, visuals, lasers, all these crazy things on these huge stages. Um, that's all for the I wouldn't say I'm not speaking for all artists because I don't know.
Of course.
Excuse me, but for the most part, a lot of that is somewhat like predetermined and choreographed, right? So like they'll have maybe a set list that they go through and they'll let people know, like I mean staff wise, like oh hey, like I'd like a fireworks to go off with this song around this time, or pull up. Obviously, all the visuals is a totally own like beast where they
Of
have
course.
the
Yeah,
visual
yeah.
artist that for each
The
song.
VJ that's doing, yeah.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
That's
So, but
crazy.
that's
That
all
stuff.
you
Whew.
need to give that VJ like information on like what songs when you're gonna play them. So stuff like that. If you have an artist doing that, it's a lot easier because you could be like, okay, I'm playing from 8 to 9. Around 8:45, I'm dropping, all my favorite track, fireworks, all that stuff. Make sure you're, recording for that.
Hmm.
Great, easy. But it's the DJs that really are, in my opinion, the true DJs who have so much fun with it and just do whatever,
Yeah.
right? They're just
Yeah.
playing whatever they
You
want
don't expect
and
what's
having a great
coming. You
time.
have no idea
That's
what's
Then
next.
you have no idea. Yeah, they could
Yeah.
play their huge track next and you wouldn't even know. So you have to be on your toes,
So
and that's what makes it fun.
so when you're, because I know you do, which we were gonna get into. We're glad we segued into this. Where you do videography for artists and DJs on the side, or
Yes.
and oh my gosh, I just lost my question. Oh, okay. How do you? I almost lost it there.
No,
How
you're
do
good. You
you?
pulled it back.
Yeah, I did. How do you distinguish and do that? Have that time where you're like having fun as well as like working the whole time. Is there a way that you do
Ah,
both, or is it hard? Because obviously you're a fan of that music as well. You wouldn't
yes.
want to be at those festivals doing that if you weren't. I would
Right.
think. I would think. I could be wrong, but how do you, I guess, work that out to where you are, you're divvying up that time for work and play, and also like you're saying, you're because you have to be on your toes, like you're saying, you just don't know what. Sometimes you don't know what's going to happen. So how do you manage that time?
Oh, that's such a great question. And I don't think I've never done interviews like this, but even talking with people, I've never been asked that question. So I really appreciate you asking that. And that is the whole. You kind of hit the nail on the head just by asking the question itself. How do you balance work and play, right? But what like when and for me, it's the passion that makes it into one
Uh huh.
unit, right? So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
work and play, and I don't even distinguish it. And I say that with an asterisk because, of course, I do distinguish a little bit. But for the
Yeah.
most part, I'm saying I'm going to be at these shows and I'm going to be at these festivals regardless, right?
Yeah.
Like I go to them and I enjoy them, and that's what I do for fun. I don't really go to bars or stuff like that. But everyone has their thing. For me, it shows. That's like my source of entertainment.
With you there.
Like,
With you
right?
there, 100%.
Yeah, that's what I do, and and that's everyone has their thing. But so for me, it's literally just, oh, I'm gonna, I'm bringing my camera and I'm gonna film the things that I already love to go to or whatever, right? And so there's that blend of like that is my passion. I love electronic music; it's my favorite genre. I like all genres, but that's definitely my favorite by far.
Hmm.
And and oh, video editing. Well, I already do that anyway for a living, right? Even with Yahoo.
Definitely makes it a lot
And
easier.
so if I'm making my edits with this footage from the shows, like it's just another like thing for me. I don't like really distinguish it in my head. So that's the beauty of that part. But the asterisk part is, of course, I do have to obviously like separate. Like, okay, if I'm gonna go to a show just for fun,
Yeah.
right? Then I can like not have to worry, like I said, about those moments where like, oh, make sure that I can capture the right thing
Hmm.
or not miss a certain whatever shot. And so there becomes a layer of professionalism that you have to like put on when you're recording for an artist, especially obviously getting paid. It's a job that you're doing. Um, and so the first part of that, first and most important part, is not to have too many drinks before you film, because then your shot becomes all wobbly and stuff. So
Right.
I personally shoot handheld completely, which some people use gimbals, which are like balancing. If anyone doesn't know, it's like you put the camera on top and there's weights on the bottom on a long stick, and it becomes balanced, and the camera kind of floats, and it becomes very nice looking. But that's more of like a stylistic choice,
I
right?
got
So
you.
my videos, I personally don't like having that kind of look to it, but a lot of artists do. Just preference. So for me, I shoot handheld, which makes me as a person, whatever's going on with me, directly translate to the footage.
Yeah,
So
you
if
get
I
bumped,
had
the
5
camera's
jigs,
moving. Yeah,
I'm not shooting the way I would exactly
yeah,
because
I get what you're
now
saying.
now I'm like moving different, you know what I mean, or whatever. So, um, not that I drink that much anyway, if I'm going to enjoy, but it's just a like fact of like, okay, I need to make sure, like am within complete 100% of my facilities to do that.
Right, right.
So that's part of it. Um, and then of course the professionalism of the sense of like I'm not going to go to a show that I'm filming for work wearing a pink shirt when I'm on stage with the artist, because then who's ever going to be looking at is me,
Yeah,
which is not what you want. You
yeah,
want
yeah.
to be hidden.
Oh yeah, I'd see someone. I'd be like, "Why is that pink shirt up there? What is going on?"
Right. So as you can see, half my wardrobe is black because I always wear black to shows,
Right.
and to try to blend in the back and not be like, seen too much when I'm doing my work. Um, so that's obviously a part of that like kind of professionalism, and just again, then it becomes okay if there's other DJs who have media people there. Okay, I need to respect their space when they're shooting,
Mm.
or maybe in a situation where okay, I'm shooting for the festival as a whole or the show as a whole, right? Like if it's a one-off, and this person on stage is this DJ's personal media person, right? Because a lot of the bigger artists have that, people that travel with them all the time. And so then it's like, okay, well now I need to talk to them and make sure I don't get in their way, and but also still do what I need to do, for my job.
Hmm.
And so that's where the professionalism and like work aspect kind of that whereas you start to separate itself from just going to a show to have fun. But you know, at least from my experience, it becomes like almost second nature after you do it for a while. You kind of learn like how to carry yourself and how to deal with like other media people on stage and stuff. And then it becomes a lot easier over time. Like when you first start, you're all nervous and like, oh, I don't want to like do
Right.
this wrong or step on this person's toes, and you just learn like going through it what to do, what not to do, stuff like that. So
That's crazy though. I always that's honestly like kind of how my page started out. Was I had so many festival videos. Like I told you, I originally started taking them on my phone.
right,
Now I have a camera. I got a camera the Christmas before COVID. So, but I haven't really got to use it too much. But
right,
I've been using my phone up until that point, and I just had a ton of videos. And I was like, I go to these festivals. It was literally my thought was like, I go to these festivals all the time. Why do I not start posting more videos of the sets I take videos of anyways? And
right,
that's literally how this whole page started, was originally with that idea of like, I'm gonna start showing what I'm doing more often because this is the
right.
stuff I like, and I'm at these festivals already. I'm taking videos already, so I'll just post them now. And if people like them, they like them, and if it turns into something, it turns into something. Like that was the
That's
whole
it.
concept behind this. And then now I'm doing a podcast. It's like it's crazy, but literally, like
Good turn of
in
events.
a great turn of events. I can't be mad at all. But like you were saying, that makes it a lot easier as well. Like you kind of brought that point up, and I'm going to bring us back to it because in anything, I mean, not just what we're doing and whatnot, but when you like it, you want to go do it more. Like you just it's easier. It's so much more easier.
Oh yeah,
And
100%.
that's something I always want to like preach to people, especially on here and on this podcast, is like find that thing you like. Like you like videography. Sorry, I don't know. A
All
little
good.
tongue twister right there for me. But you've
Yes.
incorporated into not only your career but as your side gig. And like you said, you're like, I go to these concerts and I enjoy the music and I enjoy taking videos. So like, it's not really work to me, as whereas
Yes.
other people it might be. And that's something to say, is like when it's not work to you, it can be. I mean, it'll be 100 times easier. Like no one can compete with you when it's not work to you. You're just
Right.
going about your day having fun. Whereas someone who's like killing themselves to just do it, it's just like totally different. And but yeah, I don't know. I went on a tangent about that, but that's what I wanted. I
No,
wanted
no,
that
that's
a valid point
a
to get
great
across to
point.
people.
No, that's a great point, and we could talk. I definitely like to talk about that a lot. Um, there's I have close friends who do this, who don't work a 9 to 5. This is what they do, right? And so, of course, whole nother conversation about how badly they've been affected by COVID. But
Oh
but
yeah,
just speaking even from a more general standpoint from before, I always have a mental note and like mental yield to the fact that, like, listen, I'm fortunate enough to have a 9 to 5 that I love, right? I'm not like
Yeah.
struggling to get out of it and like, oh, I'm gonna, this is a passion for me, but it's at the end of the day, it's not paying my bills, the shows part of it specifically.
Hmm.
And so I will always give the utmost respect to those who do it for a living, because that brings on another dimension of stress that I don't have to necessarily deal with, that I can't speak on it because I don't have to go through it. And so if you're paying your bills by going to a show like this and doing that, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
I have so much respect for those who do that. And I know a lot of people who are like that. And that extends to DJs and everyone in the industry, you know what I mean? Like, there are people, plenty of people who pay their bills with this, and that's it. That's their source of income.
Yeah.
And so in that regard, I have so much respect, and I'm sure it makes it a lot more difficult, but still at its core, I definitely agree. If you have the passion there that's driving it, it'll never truly feel like
Hard work.
despair, or like,
Yeah.
oh, like I need to stop doing, you know what I mean? Like, it'll
I
always
hate
be a
this.
driving force.
Yeah, I'm not enjoying this. Yada
Right,
yada. I'm
right.
just
I'm
doing
sure it's
this.
a lot harder when you have the money part involved, but at its core, it's still going to be your passion and what you love to do, you know what I mean? And to make
Hmm.
it work for you in that way.
I mean, I think when you really like something, the money doesn't necessarily matter. I think when it comes, it comes. But when, not in a sense of like you don't care if you don't get any. Obviously, everyone needs some type of money.
Right,
But I
right,
mean, in a sense of like they could be making, you know, less money. Like they could take a 9 to 5, but then they don't have the freedom they want. But they could
right,
take a career path of doing, videographer and photography on tour, and they might
yeah,
make less, but they get the freedom of life they want, and they're okay with that, and they're happy about that. Like, and that's something people I want to start preaching more is that like people should start considering that more, and in trying to live for that, because a lot of times, like you're saying, you're super blessed that you're working a 9 to 5 that you love.
right.
But how many people can say they're working a 9 to 5 they love? And I'm
Not a lot, no.
not a lot. And I'm also not advocating that everyone should go off on their own and be an entrepreneur and do their own thing, because that's very
Right.
hard in itself. But
Yes.
for you to be able to find something you like in your niche and what you like doing, whether it is on your own or at a 9 to 5, it makes it a lot easier. And that's something I wish, I think that the discussion's slowly changing that way. I hope I can keep talking about that and encouraging people to do that more, because that is something that it's going to make your life so much more less stressful, because you're enjoying what you're doing. You're not going to work, and you're not going to get depressed because you're at work,
Right.
because that
Yeah, you
does.
have to.
And it's not like if you go to work and you're depressed, you can't like distinguish your brain can't distinguish that from when you leave work. Like you leave
Yes.
work, you're still going to be depressed.
Right.
You can't just like turn it off and be like, I'm out of work, I'm great now. Like, and then you go
No,
back to,
no,
it's
no,
no, your
no.
brain has no idea. It's like, why am I like this?
Right.
Yeah.
No, a lot of people, I think, give themselves the illusion that that's what's going to happen, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But going to your point of saying, like, to do, to really like embrace what you love and what you have passion for, and to take that as to maybe jump into it as a career path and try to make it your career. Um, Me working for Yahoo came from a long string of like me taking those chances, because I don't have any formal education in video production. I didn't go to college for video production. I didn't study
Wow,
video
really?
production
Well,
at
I
any
guess.
point. Nope, nope, nope. I went to
That's
school for
crazy.
cybersecurity, digital forensics
No way. We haven't
specifically.
even talked about any of that stuff. Holy crap. All right.
Yeah, yeah. So I have zero formal training in video production. Um, I'm entirely self-taught, and so getting to this point where I am now has been a very long road and a very difficult one. And um,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. I'm not saying it to make it sound like, oh, like I struggled, but
No,
I'm
I
just
don't
saying
think you
it's
are, but
definitely
you're
not a
explaining.
conventional path, because most people study what they want to study and then get a job in it. But
Yeah.
um, that was exactly what you said, was like I had it in my head, even though that I was going to school for something else, that like this is what I want to do, right? And so like I want to make this work for me, and I know it's gonna be a struggle and it's gonna suck in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm taking an unconventional path. But if I try long enough, hopefully eventually it'll work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's how I got to like this point today. But it's if there's proof, if there's if I can add one more person of proof to the whole concept of like do what you love and try to stick to it, I throw my head in, because I always will advocate for that, because that's kind of my story, is that kind of same thing.
I mean, I beautifully well put. It's like you're saying, yeah, and it is hard to find that thing and stick to it, especially at first, especially. And sometimes I always tell people maybe you can't jump into it right away. You gotta maybe take that calculated risk. Maybe you
Yes.
gotta take that shitty, crappy job you don't want to take, but you're saving up a lot of money. So then one day you can go,
Mhm.
I'm out, and then you're out, and then you can start just fall on and go into it. There's so many ways to do it,
100%.
and that's the other thing is there's so many different ways to do it. People out there, that are listening, there's just so many different ways to go about how you want to get to that dream, but make sure you have that dream in mind and that you're going for it. Don't just willy nilly it, because you'll never get that dream. But if you have it in
Nope.
your head and you're wanting to go for it, it's okay to not get it within a year. It's okay to not get it within 4 years, as long as you're
Absolutely.
taking steps every day to strive toward that. It's definitely doable.
I completely agree. That is the best way to put it. I mean, always have one goal in mind, or if it's many goals, whatever, just to have that in your head and work towards it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, calculated risk, right? Like my internships in college were not in digital forensics. I said, you know what? I'm going to do internships that pertain to video work, because I'm like, listen, if I go to school not for video stuff, there's no way I'm going to get a job in the video industry
Mhm.
without having some formal work experience, not just freelance,
Of course.
right?
Yeah.
They want to know that I can work for a company and like take direction and work in a corporate environment. So I needed to have that kind of example. And through my freelance work, I had met someone that introduced me to someone at Billboard magazine, the people who do the charts, like the Hot 100.
Mhm.
And I was very fortunate to have a video internship over there in 2017. And that was kind of like my foot in the door for the whole, kind of going forward from there.
Yeah.
But that was my first introduction to like corporate video editing. Um,
And it
and
just
like
happened
learning
to
how to
fall
work,
into your lap.
not just doing freelance stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Not
get what you're
just
saying.
like existing for myself. I'm doing work for someone else under someone else's direction. And I took a chance, because it's like, what if this video thing didn't work out? Well, now I can't get a job in digital forensics because I don't have an internship. I don't have internship experience when all my peers do. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, I had to think about that and be like, well, I'm not gonna, I have to commit to this, to like, I want to do video even though I'm studying, digital forensics, and I'm already too far into that.
Mhm.
Then I have to do whatever I can to make sure it works for me when I get out of school, you know? And that's what it was. I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna push ahead as much as I can. And that's where the billboard, was my first kind of exposure to that.
Right. Right.
Actually, a little quick story on that. Um, this, I don't think I've ever actually like publicly said this too, which is hysterical. Um, so I had used Sony Vegas to edit for the longest time, which is like an editing program,
Mhm.
and obviously now I use Adobe Premiere. So I had said this on my interview, that I was like, yeah, I use Sony Vegas, and they're like, oh, do you know like the Adobe products? And I was like, oh, like sort of familiar with it, you know, kind of bluffing
Okay. Yeah.
slightly,
Like,
but
oh,
but
you're gonna make
like
me use it
like
or
I had
not?
dealt with it, but I didn't do like complex edits in it. And so literally I got the internship, the first day was an editing test in Premiere, and I shit myself. I was like so nervous, dude. I was like sat down at this editing computer, and I was just like, oh my god, like I'm gonna fail, like I'm gonna get exposed, like I'm done, like there's no this isn't gonna work out. And thankfully it wasn't anything too complicated. It was just like a 2-person interview that I had to like make cuts in, and that was it. So I got by, but I tell you, I spent that whole weekend learning Adobe Premiere inside and out, so that when I came back on Monday,
You were
I
ready
was
to
like
rock and
fully
roll.
versed in the product.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew everything about it. But but that's the thing. Like, you just got to take those risks sometimes. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
not saying to
I
fully lie for your to get an internship, but I'm just saying, take a chance. Like if be like, okay, well, I think I can do this if I put my mind to it, right? Like I learned how to do Premiere enough in a weekend, because
right.
I just sat there and watched YouTube tutorials for 12 hours for 2 days each. You
It's
know what I mean?
and it's crazy. Anything is possible with the internet. You can learn anything you want. I mean,
Oh,
I've got so
yes.
much queued up YouTube videos on like last couple months. I've been really, really, really getting into stocks and options and stuff like that. And I already was super into investing, but I wasn't like crazy good at it. I was just had money sitting in certain things and letting it grow slowly. But now I was like, I want to get a bit more. So I started
Nice.
doing a lot more of my own research on the time, learning a lot more. Like I was talking to you off camera earlier, I've got like a whole list of things I'm currently wanting to learn, right? And at first I was like overwhelmed.
Right.
I'm like, oh my god, I got 6 things I want to do, and I like would try to do them all in like one day, and then I never do any of them. I'd be like, oh god, I can't do any of them. But now I'm like, okay, I write out my list. Okay, this one's number 1, this was number 2, this was number 3. When we feel like we're done with number 1, we mark it off, go number 2, and then we'll do that. And so like I got so much stuff queued up of like I'm ready to learn and all that. But yeah, it's there for the taking if people want it, and the internet is giving that more power to us now than ever. It's there for the taking.
Totally.
You were talking
you can learn
about
everything online.
You were talking about your ability to go out and do risks, and I wanted to share a quote that I always hear. I don't remember who said it, unfortunately, but it was, "The universe rewards calculated risk," and that's something that stuck with me when I first heard it. I didn't have a word to put in how like I didn't have words to put in how like I think about things, and that was when I heard that quote. I was like, oh my god, that's how I feel about like I see something, and I'm like, okay, I can do that, but I'm gonna take this. Like I'm gonna figure it out before I just jump into it. You know, that's how I am at least. Everyone's different,
Right.
but I saw that quote, and that made me think of how we were talking about is so the universe rewards calculated risk.
Love it. No, that's definitely a good way to look at it.
Yeah. Well, hey man, I'm gonna close this out with that. We were landed on such a great good note here.
Yes,
I unfortunately have to get going. That's why I hate to end such a great conversation. But dude, we had so much we could still talk about. I really enjoyed having you on, man.
Thank you so much. I really love this. This was you're my first podcast I've ever done. This has been awesome.
Well, hopefully you're on many more. You're a great guest. Yeah, I enjoyed talking. We have so much more to talk about, so you will be a returning podcast guest, I hope.
Oh, fantastic.
So hope you're okay with that.
I'm so down for it.
All right. Tell everybody where they can follow you on Instagram and stuff, and I'll make sure it's in the podcast bio as well. But if you want to put any of your stuff in,
I'm just at Justin Katz Media on all platforms. I finally got all of my handles down to the same one.
Good for you, man. That's always hard to get.
But yeah, it's at Justin Katz Media, and then my website is justinkatz.media. Very cool domain that I was able to get. Everyone's always like, "Is it justinkatzmedia.com?" I'm like, "No,
nope,
it's just
media."
Justin Katz.
I saw that on your email.
Media,
I was like, all right.
Yeah. It's funny when I email people, they're like, "That's your email address?" I'm like, "I swear it works. Just try it."
That's crazy.
But yeah, so thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for finally, for coming on and taking the time out of your day to come on. I greatly appreciate that as well. Till next time, Justin.
Yes, thank you, Jacob. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Peace, everybody.